I was talking, during or in the first block of this hour about how the two Santa Claus theory is playing out, and I've been waiting. I talk about this on the air from time to time, and I've been waiting for the Republicans to start rolling it out. And I did bring this up a few months ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and I said, I haven't heard peep out of the Republicans about the deficit. Of course, they all voted for the tax bill that blew a hole in the debt. But, I said, I haven't heard a peep out of them, but I'm sure we will when they come to the conclusion that a Democrat is going to be the next president, that Trump can't get reelected. And sure enough, it happened this morning. It got rolled out this morning on Morning Joe. So, we were talking about that. There's the other pieces, though, to this whole thing about how all this is playing out that I wanted to get into. There are fires in Simi Valley right now. Fires, in Southern California. One broke out right down near the Reagan Ranch, or the Reagan Library. Now, the Reagan Library is apparently a fairly fireproof building, but the fire is heading its way. And I think this is just mind-bogglingly ironic. What has triggered most of these fires is two things. One is that global climate change, which we learned about when Reagan was president, right? It was the 1980s when people actually testified before Congress and said, this is coming, and it's caused by fossil fuels. It was the 1980s when ExxonMobil actually admitted it. Yeah, we know about this, and then later decided to cover it up. But for a while, they were actually talking about it. That was all in the 1980s. So, Reagan did nothing about climate change, didn't investigate it, didn't look into it. Nobody is in administration. I mean, who cares? Hey, it's the fossil fuel companies. We're going to let them keep making billions, number one. And number two, Reagan championed this idea that government can't do anything right. In fact, in his first inaugural address, he said, government is not the solution to your problems, government is the problem. And so if government can't do anything right, then what do you do about things like, a statewide power system? Turn it over to private industry, privatize it. And sure enough, that's what happened. At first it was Enron, and then Enron failed, and it broke into a million little pieces, and PGE rises in California, or gets reincarnated in California, only this time it's as a private for-profit corporation. And PG&E, this actually got litigated. Judge William Alsup ruled, and I quote, this is a quote from a ruling, a judge's ruling. PG&E pumped out $4.5 billion in dividends and let the tree trimming budget wither. And it wasn't just the tree trimming budget. It was the upgrading the power lines. I mean, the power line systems in California, some of them are 30, 40, 50 years old. So, when the winds blow really hard, they snap, and those sparks cause wildfires, and those fires then, kill people. So Reagan's privatization and Reagan's ignoring climate change have led to fires that are now encroaching on the Reagan Library. Tell me that's not ironic. But it's also symbolic of something much larger, which is basically the purchase, the acquisition of our Republican political class by criminal oligarchs literally all over the world. It started in a big way with American oligarchs, the Kochs and the Bradley Foundation and all these, all these other Joe Coors and all these billionaires who kind of crawled out of the woodwork in the 70s and 80s. And now it's going international.